Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a beautiful evening with my wonderful friend. And I'm so excited to have her on. I'll tell you everything that is going on, whatever. And yes, for those of you that want to know, I am out of TikTok jail. So, um, because I said something that is a cigarette butt, talking about a story, and after saying "hey" and getting my appeal denied, I said, "Look, I didn't do anything wrong. Look, I didn't do anything wrong. I was talking about a story that happened to me that I didn't know what the meaning of that word was." But we digress and we move on. So let's say hello to everybody. Hello, Michelle, my belle. Hello, Amanda. Ellen Jane, so good to see you. How are you doing? How's your daughter? I miss her.
Oh,
See you, but I miss you and her. All right. Cindy, hello. Joy to the world. Good to see you. And Priscilla, la 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 la. Regina and Lori and Amanda. Beth Rogers, good evening. Thanks. And interesting that you say good evening because we're talking about the shadow side of self, aren't we? Remember the shadow? Who remembers the shadow? Do you remember? Nobody knows, but the shadow knows. Okay. Well, I figured
little
we
dad
better
humor in there.
we have to do it now before everybody else gets on here. Hello, Laura and Regina. Spooky season is coming up. Yes, it is. Carrie, hello. Thank you for being here. Rachel Elizabeth, hello, my friend. I'm looking forward to this talk. Me too. Joy, I'm way too young. Oh, okay. Carson, I'm so happy to catch the whole live this time. Me too. Me too. I'm so glad you're here. Regina, ha 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 ha. Lori remembers. Kim, hello. Eleni, Timokanis posise, kalispera. Kalispera sas. That means good evening or early evening in Greek, everybody. And good to see you. So I'm honored to have Moira Scullion here with us. If you have not met Moira, you're going to enjoy our evening. You're going to enjoy our talk. Hello, Chris and Moira and Priscilla says, looking forward to this as well. Long time no see, Moira. Yes, long time. And Leticia, hello, hello. And yes, here is Moira's um, email, rather website, rather, moirascullion.com. It's her name. It's what we do, guys. We now make
Easy.
names. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. So, Moira and I met back in 2002. Can you believe it? 2002. I know. It's crazy.
Over
That's
20 years.
over 20 years.
It's
It's
crazy.
nuts. So Moira we're older.
We're older.
Older. So Moira was 5 when I met her, and um, I was 8. So, so back in the day when I was going to massage school, Moira was teaching there, and I had Moira as a clinic instructor, and I was doing my shamanic training at the same time, or I should say, the apprenticeship group, the apprenticeship in shamanic studies, because it's not really it's training, but life is training, right? And I thought Moira was cool, but there was something about her energy. I'm just like, you should really do this, right? And she's like, okay, thanks. Bye-bye now. She
No,
was
I remember I was like, get back to work.
get back to you did. You were I forgot. You're like, okay, that's great, but you got a client. And she goes, go dunk your arms in ice and hot water. Which
Uh-huh.
it was a lot of fun. But through that, Moira took the apprenticeship program that I was assisting on, and then we still remained friends. We did things together, and then we also did a retreat together, and we then ended up doing an apprenticeship program together in shamanic studies, which we'll get to in a little bit. And on those retreats, we always talked about shadow side of self, right? And I'll let Moira give you the full introduction about what else she does. But, you know, it's interesting because I feel that sometimes that stuff that we feel in our gut and in our heart really can have those shadow pieces of self. And I'll let you go ahead and finish and telling everybody, besides being a massage therapist and all the wonderful things that you do, please tell everybody what you do. And then if you can explain your definition of shadow work or shadow
Hmm.
side self.
Sure. So, massage therapist for 25 years now, a little bit over. I've been doing energy work for about 2017, something like that. But my specialty in massage is abdominal massage. And it's through that doorway that I really started looking at the deeper parts of ourself. So, both physically, but then, our belly holds a lot of emotional stuff. So, it's through that exploration that I really started exploring this aspect of our self, right? The deeper aspect of ourself. And I love that. It's, to me, that's the juicy stuff. It's beyond just muscles, it's beyond just tissue. And yet it is our muscles and tissue that house this beautiful spiritual self that we are. And so, in looking at the deeper stuff, what I work with a lot with people is working with those parts of themselves that they're maybe not happy about, that they don't like, that they feel like is a block, that they feel like is heavy, holds them down, holds them back. In the Peruvian culture, they Quechua, they use the word hucha, heavy, right? It's like heavy energy, right? That heaviness that weighs not just on our physical body, but our spirit, right? And our psyche. So I really like looking at the shadow side of self as those parts of ourself that typically we are not very welcoming to.
Mhm.
We're kind of shameful of, we're judgmental of, or they're judgmental of us. It's the part of ourselves, the aspect of us that we kind of like to shove in a corner, or maybe actually shove down to deeper parts of our body. So, like Elias said, I mean, through all of this personal work that we've done, it is in getting in touch with that shadow part of ourself that we really can achieve some deep healing. Because you're going to those places that, it's not the bright, sunny side of the street, right? You're going to the place that is full of darkness, and it is the space of the unknown, right? Because we don't like to look at it, so we don't really know what is there.
And that's the great mystery here, everyone, that the unknown doesn't have to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be negative. You talk about it, I talk about it, about the strength that is within the unknown. When we do these retreats, when we do, especially, and I'll just say it, we're going to do an apprenticeship program next year, and Moira and I will be doing a free talk coming up. If you're interested in an apprenticeship program for a year, it meets 4 times a year. Please email info@eliaspatris.com and just put apprenticeship talk. And it's a free Zoom meeting to know what the apprenticeship is about and how we do it and where is it going to be at and yada, yada, yada. So we'll talk about that. Let me quickly say hello, Lisa and Gloria and Melissa and Condi and Carla. Hello, hello, hello. And Danielle, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Joy, oh, are you calling her in or are you just telling her to come? Or are you saying hi to her? I'm so happy you addressed this. Yes. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for being here. And yes, that is the September 23rd at 8 p.m., 8 a.m. Thank you. Thank you. So when we look at that shadow side of self, would you say, Moira, that people are so nervous about it because it's the unknown and then they close it off
Oh,
or they get stuck in this place of, I'm going through the dark night of the soul again? How do we move through that? How do we shift that energy?
that's a really good question, right? Because it's really easy to get caught in
Right.
our human drama stuff because it's very real, it's very present.
Right.
I find that ceremony is a really beautiful way to get in touch with shadow self. And ceremony can be just meditating, sitting in prayer, right?
Right.
But being in community, doing ceremony in community is a beautiful way. Always brings up shadow stuff, right? But really being mindful of ourself. And one place that is a really, really good, obvious place to look is your projections.
Yes.
Right? When you find you're getting judgmental against somebody else or shamey against somebody else or a little like snickery about somebody else, right? Just get curious. Don't hold judgment against yourself because that we're trying to avoid any more of that. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm finding I'm really judgmental about that thing that person does. And then as your finger is pointing to somebody else, you got to turn it on yourself and just ask yourself, oh, is that something that I do that I don't like about myself? Right? Because that's what we do. We are beings that love to project our crap. Say it
And we
that way.
like to look in the mirror. And
Yeah.
sometimes what the universe will bring in is a mirror for us and say, where does that rub up against what I did, what I'm going through, what I possibly am touching upon? It could be something, even though they're a mirror for you, you might have healed that 10 years ago. But this is bumping up for you for a reason to maybe, how do I look at it differently? How do I look at a place in my life where I don't want to, I've avoided. And avoidance is a big part of the shadow self.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rachel says, we are all just mirrors. I like to go in depth of my own cave in meditation and see what shows up. Exactly. And are you journaling about it, guys? And that's why we do retreats. And this is why we're doing the apprenticeship program. It is done in a group of community that we are showing everyone that I am vulnerable. Moira is vulnerable. We're showing that vulnerability. We're opening ourselves up and saying, look, I poop just like you do. And it is, something that we do. And it's like, okay, nobody says that they're super clean. It's like we've all had our bumps through our life, but to move through it and to learn from it, because we're constantly learning, constantly learning. Guilty today of pointing that finger. We all are.
Totally.
We all be. I mean, I pointed the TikTok finger. It's like, hey, how come she can do that and I, but it doesn't matter, guys, because if you can look, here's what they teach in the Andean culture. Andean culture. What they'll say is when you go through this medicine wheel, if you will, you go through the dark and the jaguar is bringing you into that dark to lead you into the light. Those beautiful green or gold eyes of that black panther, of that jaguar, is just moving you through the shadow side of self. And it can move you through gently, or it can shake up your world. Now, Moira does an amazing, oh, look, I could point at you. Moira does, I'm touching your shoulder. Moira does a beautiful exercise that we did in the apprenticeship program where, and this isn't giving anything away, guys. She has you dance out, not like get down, get down, get down, get down, get funky. She has you dance out your victim. And that is going into that shadow part of self where you're actually beating your fists on the floor and you're giving it a sound. You're giving it a or something. And I have borrowed that from you. And actually, some of you know that we did it on a retreat in Virginia. And that came, as you guys remember, that came from Moira. And it's just moving that energy through. Kim says, what about childhood?
Whew, yeah, that's a big one. So childhood drama, they go hand in hand. Um, it that actually lives on another plane as well as the shadow self, because that also lives in your nervous system. There's some howling doggies. Yeah, childhood trauma, right? So that is a part of ourself that gets wounded, right? And often really deeply wounded. And so in that wounding, right, that part of ourself, that aspect of us winds up retreating, right? But that you got to remember that that retreat that happens through trauma is a protective mechanism. So it's a really, really good thing, right? It's part of your survival mechanism in the moment. And then we grow up and we grow older and we kind of get stuck in that place where that wounded part of us stays retreat, right? So that becomes our shadow, part of our shadow self. And we have multiple shadow selves. It's not like we just have this one shadow being that like hides out in the corner. Like we could have hundreds of different aspects of ourself that come in at different places and moments in our life, right? So it's a process. It is a lifelong, beautiful, challenging process to work with the shadow self.
And it is, and what we want you guys to know, we really want you to know that it's healing.
Mm-hmm.
It is healing to move through this. It is healing. It doesn't have to be fearful. This is why we do it with community.
Bingo.
Because when we do it with community, you are being supported. We are saying that we honor you for your process. You know, that famous saying of I see you. I really do see you. I see you moving through this. And we're not here to push. We're not here to lead. We're here to hold space, to honor your process as you move through. And when you have, 10, 12, 15, 30 people holding you, holding you in that light, and they're not holding you in the shadow. They're holding you in the light so you can move through
Mm-hmm.
that shadow. That is a huge piece. It is huge.
Yeah.
Andrea wants, so what if I can't remember large parts of my childhood? Also in adulthood, the specifics of the dramas leave my memory, but not my body. And that's why you work with her.
Bingo. So I'm a big believer in that you don't need to remember your traumas, right? Any practitioner that forces you into remembering and reliving your trauma is actually re-traumatizing you.
Right.
So, right, we have these experiences, and these experiences become ingrained in our body, right? They become the blueprint of our body, right? And these experiences, it depends on their level of trauma, right? There's big T trauma, there's little T trauma, right? The big T is like I went through a hurricane, I had some kind of natural disaster, I was shot, rape is very much of a big T trauma. But then there's little T trauma, right? It's these little small microaggressions, right? They're called microaggressions. It's these small little consistent things that happen, especially when you're developing as a child, right? And those they create a response in your nervous system that just lives there until you address it, right? So
And
there's
think,
some.
sorry, go ahead. So
Nope,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead. I
ahead.
was just going to say there's
We do this a lot in person, guys.
so much good stuff to say.
Toe tapping, but go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to say trauma therapy. There's so many good things that are out there now. If you're really interested in trauma therapy, you can look at somatic work, right? Oh, EFT tapping. The aspect, just because I'm a body worker, I always look at how that energy is stored in the body. right? It gets stored in the nervous system, but it also gets stored in your energy body, which is in your physical body and outside of your physical body. So that's the place that I work, is with your energy, right? So kind of getting back to somebody who asked about how do you deal with trauma if you can't remember it, right? Thank you. When it lives in your body, then you can work with the shadow in a symbolic way, or just as in a sensory place, right? You can work with the energy of the body that's trapped in the body, the energy that relates to the experience without needing to go through the experience, like reliving the experience, right? It might come up, but you're focused more on the energy and the sensations in your body. It's a really beautiful way to work with trauma in the body. Yeah, hope I answered that question.
And think about it too, guys. How many of you suffer from IBS? How many of you suffer from any type of colon type of issues? A lot of that. So I will share a little story. I I had an issue where I had to be in the hospital for 3 days, and our teacher, um, Moira and I, Susan Lipschitz, she said that sometimes things could get stuck and you have to move through it and can be deep. And when this doctor said, you have, which I didn't have, by the way, diverticulosis or the start of diverticulosis, it's like there's a seed that's stuck deep in that wound. And it hit me like that. I was in the hospital. And let me tell you, people are prodding me in places that they shouldn't be prodding me without offering me dinner first. So they were just, do you see why my Greek mouth gets me in trouble? So,
Oh, I know.
yeah, I know you know. So they're poking and prodding, and I was like, "What?" It was a teaching hospital. It was Illinois Masonic, which is a huge teaching hospital. Anyway, in that moment, I realized that what my ex of 12 years, who were very good friends now, um, said something, and that stuck with me. And I let it sit there, and until I could do the forgiveness, in that moment, I said, I forgive you. I forgive what you said, and I held on to it. And I held on to it so much that it went to my core. And after I released it, I have not, knock on wood, have not had any problems with that issue anymore. And it was I had to go to the emergency room, guys, because I was bleeding. And it was, I think you remember that. Um, and it was bad. It was really, really bad. And I am so glad that I moved through that healing process. But I had to go back to a dark time of my life where it was after my mom died. And it just struck me like that. Again, in that one moment, that healing moment, things just flipped and switched. So our body holds so much. And
Mhm.
I have to tell you, I had a session with Moira, and it was remote because you guys know I'm in Washington State, and um, Moira's still in Chicago. And that healing that happened was phenomenal because it was about issues in my hip. And let me tell you, for several days, I did not have any pain in the hip. What you did in moving through that healing work. So if you guys ever need to get a session that's remotely done over the computer via Zoom, or even on the phone, Moira will walk you through that. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Um, let's open up for some questions. What do you think? I know we had a few of them,
Yeah.
but let's open up some questions. And while we're waiting for your questions, remember this. Remember, guys, that um, there's a beautiful saying, and when we're in community, we say this: your healing is my healing. And it's from the Mapuche tribe in Chile. And that is just such a beautiful saying that we have. And in this work that we do, in this energy work, shamanic energy work that Moira and I do individually and together, it is a way of sitting in the beauty of what was, what is, and what can be, and honoring how those three pieces can come through. Don't ask me where that came from. I'm holding my new little crystal. It's a green amethyst, and this is for the higher heart. So that was pretty good. I'm
That
like,
was beautiful.
my hands are on fire. That was good.
That was very good.
I think I need a sip of water for that one. See, this is where I tap Moira's. I'm like, that was good. We have a lot of fun, you guys. We really
We do. We do. One thing I wanted to mention, since you talked about healing, right? Many of our wounds come from relationship. So, something to keep in mind when you are looking to do shadow work and you are looking to go into that place, right? Which is dark, can be scary, can be a place of fear, can be a place where the like monsters come up. You know, I always encourage people, you can start doing the work by yourself, right? Like when you're journaling, like allow things to move and to flow, right? But the best healing work that you can do is always in relationship, because the wound happened in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to tend to those wounded parts, the shadow parts, in relationship always creates a deeper, more dynamic and more spirit-led healing. So, right, to start by doing like your journal. I'm a big believer in journaling. I think that can be really impactful, but it's really about finding a place of expression for these shadow pieces, right? Because they have been sent to the corner, to face the corner, to be there for a really long time, not having space to talk, not having space, unless they're talking because they're in like a triggered state, right?
Right.
But being able to find different ways to allow expression for these shadow parts. So by journaling, meaning like not letting your mind journal about it, but letting that part of you do the journaling. So it's almost like you're channeling for that part, right? So that's a great way to start off by yourself. If you do art, if you dance, if you have some kind of creative thing that you do, that is a beautiful way to help start to touch into these shadow parts of yourself. Doesn't always mean you're going to get this big, huge healing, and you can absolutely. But it's about a way of beginning that relationship with these shadow parts, right? So you begin the relationship with them in small ways, right? And then you start working with somebody who can hold a container for you and for that part of you and its expression, right? So that you both are witnessed, right? And then if you can, going into an even bigger container where you're at a retreat or you're at a seminar, right? Where there's multiple people, because then you can be in relationship with multiple people, multiple energies, and think about how that potentiates your healing, that relational healing, right? It's nothing is simple, and yet it's kind of simple, right?
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Kim wants to know, do you recommend the 369 journal?
I don't know the 369 journal.
Neither do I. I haven't heard of it.
No.
Irma says hello to you. So
Hi,
good to see
Irma.
you.
Good to see you. Your
This is
little
interesting.
picture.
Her little picture. She just had a birthday a couple weeks ago.
Oh, happy birthday, Irma. 21 again, right?
Yes. Joy says, and this is funny that Joy is asking this because Joy has been on a retreat. What if it's so horrible that I can't tell one person, much less than 15? Now, yeah, but I know that you have.
Mm.
You have.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that before you came to a retreat, you weren't even going to say what you were going to say, whatever that was. And then you're in that circle and something happens that you're like, I wasn't going to say that. I don't know why that came out. So I haven't. Okay. Um, I
So if I can,
please.
you don't have to say what happened, right? This is about, right? Like that's jumping into the deep end and over the
Right,
cliff and down the cavern and into the wood.
exactly
Like
where
you don't like give yourself a break. You don't have to do that, right? But what it's about is this is about touching into the energy of where it lives. And it lives inside of your body. And that's the beginning place. It's just allowing yourself to reach a hand out and touch it, to just gently touch it. That's how you begin. So don't feel like you need to like go and bare your soul. Like this is not about being a Catholic and going and confessing your sins to the priest. You don't have to, right? This is about working with the energy in your body, I believe, in a really gentle way. When it comes to trauma, gentle, right? The trauma you experienced was not gentle. So the way you need to touch into the energy of it needs to be gentle and tender, right? You need to touch into it in a way that that little being originally needed to be tended to in a really gentle, sweet, tender way. So just think of it, I don't know if that helps, but just think of it more as not telling your story, but just gently touching into the energy of it. And it can literally just be like if you're remembering something about that experience that was really bad, all you have to do is pull yourself out of the memory and just say, okay, what am I feeling in my body in this moment? And if you can't fully connect, that's fine. If it's just like, oh, my toe feels numb, like that's enough. You're just touching into one piece of the energy and it'll just like a flower, right? It just keeps growing and expanding and the petals touch each other. It's this alchemical process that doesn't always have to be hard and big, right? Like Elias, I think when we both went into shamanic work, we're both like, I'm going to the underworld. I'm gonna tackle this thing. It's gonna be hard. I want my butt to be kicked by spirit. Lots of us have said that. Like, I'm done with this hard shit. Like, sorry, but yeah, let it be gentle. Why can't it be gentle? It can be gentle and sweet and right, like that is the divine. It's yes, it's strong and potent, but it's also gentle and tender and whatever it is you need to be in the moment.
And that's what we talk about, and that's what I was going to say, Joy, is that, like Moira said, you did that. You went ahead and you talked about this piece here without going into this piece there. It was you have done this work. Rachel has a good question. Hey guys, leave it. I don't know what it is, but leave it. So sorry, everybody. They're just barking on the truth. Rachel has a question, and
Absolutely.
read that while I close the door. Go ahead.
Yes. I was doing so much shadow work. I felt burnt out by the digging, right? The digging and the digging and the digging. Is there such a thing as shadow work burnout? Hell to the yes, right? You are doing all of this work and all of this digging that you're doing is changing the alchemy inside of your system, right? It's changing the physiology, the energy, the frequency inside of your system. You need time and space to let that recalibrate, right? To let it integrate, to let all of your work integrate, right? And by integration, it allows you to embody the beautiful work you just did, right? I'm all about like going in and going into the shadow and going into the darkness and doing all this beautiful dark work. And it can feel hard because, well, it is. I think it can be really hard work. It's hard to face. It's hard to face our inner fears, but it's also hard to face these contractions inside of our body that are held in such a tight, protective way. It's hard to step into that, because it's scary, because what lives there is an energy that was born out of something that was scary. So just again, that's why I'm a huge pusher of like, just do it gently. Like if you do good, deep, hard work, like that's great. If that's your thing and that's the place you're in, great. And then give yourself some space to let your body, to let your mind, your ego, like, just integrate it all, and literally to let your energy recalibrate to the new being that you are. So rest.
We've had teachers, that like, you know, there you go. And that's not how we'll push you a little bit. But again, the choice is yours. It's always a gentle push. It really is. And
And a
Priscilla,
supportive push.
supportive push. Thank you. How does shadow work work? How does shadow work when you need to work through something heavy trauma with someone that has passed?
Ooh.
So that's truly a shamanic journey.
Mhm.
That really is a shamanic journey that you do that, and we do the work. We've done it on retreats, we've done it in the apprenticeship program, where there is somebody that will or can embody that energy of that loved one, might look like them or might say something like them, and you work through that energy with that person, or you work it individually through a trance dance,
Mhm.
or you work it through cord cutting, or you work it through journaling or a journey or a meditation, whatever, guided meditation. So there's many ways to, would you say, Moira, wouldn't you say?
Yes. And if it is a truly deep, big T trauma, it's really important that you not be alone, that you be resourced. Resourced meaning you know what is your limit for your own body and what helps support your own body and system, but also having other people around you to support your work. Don't do it alone. This is not about doing trauma, like deep trauma work alone, right? Shadow work it can be really sweet and gentle, and it can go to these really deep, heavy places. My biggest encouragement is don't do it alone. Have the support, right? That energetic support, not just for your nervous system, but for your spirit.
Right.
Your spirit needs to be it needs to have a container held for that deep work. I don't know if that answered the question.
Rachel said it's been a year of integration for me. And yep, same. That's why I've been moving more back to Abraham Hicks and
Mm-hmm.
better feeling thought. Yep.
Yep.
Exactly. Andrew says, I feel like I've severe memory loss from all the trauma, and shadow work doesn't feel so easy for me. So here's something that's beautiful about the work that we do. And you were, being on a retreat, you understood that, you can take something that's tangible. You could take, let's say it's a stone, not a crystal, but a stone. You could take something and animate an animated object and blow whatever energy you need into that stone. It doesn't matter if you remember the memory, and see what that stone is telling you. There are many different kinds of pieces that we work on in this apprenticeship program and on the retreats that help support what you need in that moment, or at that stage that you're in, because what you do, like we said earlier, what you do today will be very different from what you do 3 years from now. We can do that reading of a rock. We can do that reading on every single retreat and every single apprenticeship program weekend, and you will get it something different each time you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, just fascinating.
And also just remember, there have been a couple of questions now about memory,
Yeah.
memory of a trauma. Your body's ability to forget something is a survival mechanism that's a really, really good, useful thing. So don't feel like you don't shame yourself, don't judge yourself for not remembering. Um, know that when your system, your energetic system, your nervous system is ready to remember and you are fully supportive, it'll show up when the time is right. And the other thing is I work with a lot of people who are like have this kind of vague feeling of some memory of some trauma that happened to them, but they have no memory. Yes, it can be something that happened to you in this lifetime, but also remember you are attached energetically in so many other ways to this world. So it could be something that happened in a past life. It could be something that happened to your parents while you were in utero.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something that happened to one of your ancestors. It could be an ancestral burden that lives inside of your body, but it's not yours, right? So that becomes a little trickier to work with. But right, doing ancestral healing, which is, I think, also shadow work, is beautiful. And honestly, I think that is what is up in our culture right now. Collectively, there's so much ancestral healing happening, right? Our
Right.
parents, many of our parents, at least my parents, my dad would have been 80, 90 this year. Our parents did not have the bandwidth, the frequency, the language, or the time to be able to do the kind of healing work that we're doing now. So, so it's our turn.
And remember, everybody, we're doing the healing work for the 7 generations behind us and the 7 generations before us. So we are doing, generational work, and it's fascinating,
Mm.
absolutely fascinating. Kelly says, "Do you think it's possible to work through shadow trauma when you're always on, taking care of your kids constantly with no break?"
Mm. That is a good question, right? So on, to me, that means your nervous system is in hyper arousal, right?
Mhm.
Like you're always like you're hyper vigilant. You're always looking at things. And honestly, I have two ways to answer this. One is your nervous system needs support. So I would encourage you not to do this kind of work without having support for your nervous system, whether that means working with a therapist or learning how to regulate your nervous system, working with vagus nerve tonifying, right? And then the other way is doing spiritual work in community, right? In this large group, has a way of being able to hold the energy of something much bigger than we are able to hold as individual people.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And many of you are saying alone, alone. Look who it is.
Cami
Amy Sterling and Julie Larson is on here too.
and Julie.
So good to see you, Cami. So good. And Cami, look, I just have to share you with you, Cami. I was gonna take a picture of it, but Cami, look what I got my soul sister just for fun today because it made me think of you.
Aw.
So that's coming in the mail, sister. It's coming in the mail. It's really cute. I was like, this is too cute. I don't know what it is, but it's cute because it's from overseas. And just like, here you go. You're getting it. I think it's an air freshener for the car, is what I think, because there's a clip on it. I think that's what it said. It's from, I did. I went shopping on Temu or Temu, and it's just cute. Anyway, it's adorable, isn't it? Yeah, it just made me think of her real quick. So, um, you are that Kennedy. That's super interesting. So
That was up. Go
yep,
up a few more. There was something about a Kennedy curse. There you
the
go.
curse. So if we believe in the curse, then we're giving that curse power. Just think about that for a moment. Just think
But
about
that's also ancestral,
that. Right.
right? So that is a curse that comes down through the family, that when you have no consciousness of it, right? It is a shadow piece,
Right.
right? Because it's not, you don't know the origins of it. Nobody through the family knows the origins of it. It's just this theory and idea, but like, how did it come to be? It doesn't mean that you can't get rid of it, right? There's practitioners out there that work with curses, and I do sometimes, yes. Um, but yeah, that's an interesting shadow piece.
So just
What was that?
got it at the dollar store. Anytime I talk about curses on TikTok, there's a curse on you. Anyway, my TikTok people know.
I was gonna say they should all know that you're silly by now.
They know that,
Yeah.
please. They know from like within 3 minutes. Um, Fascinating. I mean, fascinating. And here's the stuff, guys. I would, if I were you, and not because she's here, not because she's my friend, and not because we co-facilitate stuff together. I would have a wonderful energy session with Moira, and book a session with her. She could do it remotely, or just call her and talk to her and say, is this something that would benefit me? And I think you guys would be really, really surprised at what can happen. I'm just watching our clock.
Yeah.
So besides our program, you got anything else coming up?
I don't have anything coming up, but two things I want to say. One is, if you do call, there's two different ways that we can work. One is where it is really more of direct healing work, where I use a lot of crystals. I guide you into a meditation. You're, laying on your bed or on a chair or whatever, right? And so you're really just in receiving mode. And then the other way that I work is more of an active way. So this is where it's really about teaching you how to tune into the energy in your body, to track the energy and to allow that energy to move. I'm also using crystals while we're doing that work as a way to support the movement of that energy. So those are two different ways. The other thing I really want to encourage you is this practice of journaling. I have found this over the last couple of years to be really, really, really helpful in working with my shadow self, these parts of myself that show up when I don't want them to show up, that I'm like triggered by them, or somebody does something and it just, just irks me. This part of working with these parts of ourselves is what I said before is, right, they need a space for expression, right? But not only do they need a space for expression, they need a witness to that expression, right? Most healing that happens when there is a witness to it. So the way that I suggest you trying this, and I hope this is okay that I encourage this, take a little time for this. So in any meditation practice, they talk about cultivating your witness, right? Your inner witness, which is your higher self watching all of your little ego mind thoughts, right? Well, when you're journaling, this is a practice where you want to call up that inner divine self, right? Your witness self, your higher self. And from that place of working and being with your higher self, just take a moment, and whatever this trigger is, or this issue, or the part that you noticed about yourself that maybe wasn't such a nice part of you, let that divine, that higher part of you, call that shadow part in. And when you can feel it show up inside of you, right? This is all happening inside of your mind. So you don't second guess it. Just let it go, right? When you can feel that shadow part of you come in, then let that higher part of you ask, like, what is it that you need to say? What do you need me to hear? and then journal as that shadow self, right? And my caution is you'll find that right, it'll be the part of you that was wounded will be like, well, this person did blah 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 and this hurt me in this way, and then all of a sudden you'll find your ego rational mind going, oh, but I totally understand why they did this. They were in their own space and their blah blah blah, right? Like, and that rational mind is right. And when you're allowing this wounded part to journal, it's not the space for the rational mind. It's not the space for the adult mind. The only thing that is there is for this wounded part to be able to be seen and heard. And this can be so, like, in doing your own work by yourself, nothing is going to come up that's too much for you, because it's all your own psyche is balancing this. But it can be really, really healing, because this shadow part is finally having a voice, right? You're inviting it to the table, because it's never had a seat at the table before. It's always been shamed away or judged away. So this practice is a really, really beautiful practice to start working with those shadow parts of yourself, to start creating relationship to those shadow parts of yourself, between your higher self and the shadow self. This relational aspect of it is just a beautiful beginning way to start this journey of working with your shadow.
So true. Well said. Well said. And again, guys, here's Moira's information, all that's on there. And yes, the September 23rd Earth Honoring Apprenticeship 1-year program with Moira and me.
Yes.
Using universal principles in honor of your own spiritual lineage. Yes. So that's what we're talking about on September 23rd. We are only taking, if I'm correct, Moira, we're only taking 12 people.
I believe so. Yeah, it's a really small, intimate retreat center. And so we want to keep that really intimate.
So does that mean we're doing it in Iowa?
As far as I know of.
So we're doing it in Iowa, you guys. We're going to be doing it in Iowa. So it'll be 4 weekends in Iowa. And it's not like back to back to back. We spread it out.
Yeah, it's like every 2 or 3 months.
Right. And
so you have integration time.
And you'll also have time to, we'll explain this more in the talk, but you'll have time to work with your group. Like, you will have phone call time with your group out. So you're not just hanging out feeling alone. We talk about this alone feeling. That is something that Moira and I really, really stress, that we don't want anybody ever to feel alone. You are never alone. You're never alone.
No.
Okay,
yeah, and we have a ton of fun. Like, we do some really good deep work, and we go to like crazy, magical, beautiful spaces inside of ourselves and with each other, and we just have a lot of fun. But there's really, really good deep. This is a deep personal journey. If you are ready for a good deep personal journey that is about you connecting not only to yourself, but to nature, to the elements, to working with an altar that represents all of the cosmos and you at the same time. It's a beautiful, fun, magical journey, I think.
It is. And it's a sweet place. And I can't wait. Moira's coming in October with me on the retreat in October, but the food is really good. The owner, now the new owner, she actually cooked for us last time we were there last November, which is so crazy to say. 2 Novembers ago? Wait. It just seems like it was long ago. It's just a beautiful place, and I really liked it. As much as I'm going to have to fly in and out, but I love this place. Last November, thanks, Joy. Yeah, last November. It was just.
And what's the theme of your retreat? What's the name of your retreat, Elias?
Which one?
The one in October.
Oh, October, November is honoring your inner voice.
Okay. And
And
what's
thank
that
you for bringing
about?
that up. Honoring your inner voice, thank you, Moira, is see, this is what happens when we get together. Honoring your inner voice is all about that. It is about finding your voice and what has held you back and what do we need to get you to have that voice back. And in September, because we're just crazy, in September we're doing another retreat, and there's 3 spots that are open, and that is manifesting your desires.
Mm,
So
good
that
one.
is all going to be at that place. So September, October, and November, and I will be very excited for all these 3. And we are doing, again, our talk is September 23rd. What time did we say that's at? 8 a.m.
I know
Pacific,
10 a.m. Central.
10 a.m. Central. So 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So
Yes.
just email info@eliaspatrick.com, put apprenticeship talk, and then you'll get the Zoom link, and we're just going to talk about that. Amanda says, "I hope you sharpened your
I
scissors."
saw that. Yeah. Is it
Uh,
like those kid scissors that are
you'll see. They're really your scissors. We'll see. We'll see. So I'll be in jammies. Okay. And Joy, you get to meet Moira in October. Some of you are coming in October. So it's exciting. It's great. Um, I just want to thank you. This time goes by so fast when you and I are
always,
like,
always?
there you go.
Because we always
So
have fun.
we always have fun. And again, moirascullion.com if you want to check out the website. And then please, guys, really, truly invest in you and invest in a session with Moira. You'll really be glad that you did. And you'll see why this work that we do is so important. Many of you on Zoom don't get to see that piece that we do, the energetic piece that we do, that Moira and I both do. And that's why on the retreat, you get a little taste of it. And the apprenticeship program, you get a lot of info on that and a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, everyone.
Thank you, Elias.
You're welcome. You're always welcomed whenever you want. You know that.
Thank you.
And what's going on? So back to our regular scheduled program tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, and for Emmy, that would be 8:30 Mountain time. I will be on the Tiki Talk to give a little guided meditation and a little bit of chit chat tomorrow. So I'm so excited that I am out of TikTok jail. And thanks to the powers that be, the TikTok angels. So I'm really glad about that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here, Moira. Hold that thought. And
Thank you, everybody.
we are here to connect. And when we connect, we educate. And we educate, we grow. There is unity in community. Remember also this date, September 22nd, is the date of the podcast on mindbodyspirit.fm. Moira is scheduled, Virgo Rising. Moira is scheduled to be on my list to have a chit chat with. So I'm excited, guys. As always, from our hearts to yours, be well, everybody. We'll talk soon. Take care.